Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Srini, Vice President Product at Grey Campus. I can tell you how excited I am about this session today. At Grey Campus, we're always looking for opportunities to contribute to our community of professionals in ways that help them excel in their careers. And today we have a great opportunity to demystify an important technology that seems to get the better of most of us. Yes, we are talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and the impact of it on all of us. I'm personally keen to learn and pick up insights from this session today and see how we at Grey Campus can leverage this disruption and help our community via new products. Allow me to introduce Oliver Yarbrough, a thought leader in project management, especially in the space where project management and AI intersect. Oliver is a speaker at a number of PMI conferences and has written and advocated on the impact of AI in the project management space quite actively. Oliver has been associated with us for many years, and it was one of his class recordings that got me interested to become a PMP. And it is wonderful to hear it from him once again today. A quick housekeeping note here. Please post your questions or comments on the chat window and we'll try and answer them towards the end of the session. Without further ado, let me welcome Oliver so we can all tune into his exciting session. Over to you, Oliver.
Thanks a lot, Srini. This is really exciting. I would like to start by thanking each and every one of you who's attended this live webinar, as well as anyone who may be watching this in replay. Because when I first started writing and talking about this a couple of years ago, it really wasn't on a lot of people's radar, this thing called artificial intelligence, in project management at least. Of course, artificial intelligence as a whole has been around, but as it relates to project management, it wasn't really on a lot of people's radar. Fast forward to today, it's still not on a lot of project managers' radars. It's on a lot of your leaders' radars, though, your executives, your business owners, it's on their radars. But we're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months is going to get on a lot more project managers' radars simply because of the possibility for change as well as disruption. So today we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and how it will impact project managers. How it will impact you. Here's the overall agenda that we will be going through. This is some really, really exciting stuff. Even though I talk about this a lot and write about it, I'm still excited. I mean, I'm a student of artificial intelligence as a whole. So this is exciting even for me. So again, these are some of the things which we will be touching upon. I had a great introduction, but yes, I'm a speaker, author, trainer. I've been in the project management space for a while. And like I said, I started talking and writing about this artificial intelligence as it will impact project management over 2 years ago. And since then, I've done a number of things. And you can find out more towards the end of this presentation. I'll have ways in which you can follow and get other information and whatnot. Okay, let's start off with some surveys, okay? Because, a survey from a PMI. Because what I think, in my opinions, are great. Okay, great, Oliver. I mean, you have great opinions on where you think things are going, but there's nothing like hard data and facts. So let's look at PMI's latest survey. They do these things called a pulse of the profession. And they do in-depth reports, and they survey, hundreds, if not thousands, of project managers across the world. And what I'm about to show you is the hard data that they've come up with after surveying thousands of project managers. 81% of respondents to their survey report AI is impacting their organization. Think about that. 81%. Over the next 3 years, project professionals expect the portion of projects they manage using AI to jump from 23 to 37%. That is a tremendous jump in just over 3 years. 37% of respondents say adopting AI is a high priority. Now, don't get too excited because in the same survey, 36% of respondents say adopting AI is a low priority. What that tells me is there is a disconnect between people in the profession, because how can you have 37% saying that it's a high priority, well, on the flip side, 36% say it's a low priority? Something is off right there. Also, almost 31% report less than 5% of their projects have used AI in the past 3 years. Now let's sit back and internalize this, okay? I can give you a lot of examples, but the example that sits out in my mind most clearly is, if you recall, like, let's go back 8, 10 plus years ago. This thing called Agile. Agile, as it relates to project management, was not really a big deal. Yeah, it was used in software development, but it wasn't mandatory. I mean, you didn't have a lot of companies putting it as a must-have or as something that they were really looking for. Fast forward the last 3 to 5 years, it's become, almost mandatory that you have some knowledge or some experience in Agile and as it relates to project management. Look at how quickly that came on the scene and became a major thing of which project managers had to scramble around and get. So if you didn't have that, now you're scrambling around trying to get it. And I'm talking about large organizations, across the U.S. and other countries like AT&T and just huge multi-billion-dollar conglomerates. Basically saying that if you want to stay in this field, you're going to have to get certified and know this stuff. Well, why do I mention that? I mean, this is not an agile conversation, right? Why do I mention that? I mention that because change can happen quicker than many of us expect it to happen. As we're sitting here now, AI may or may not be a major focus in your organization, but that does not mean that that could not change overnight, particularly if competition or companies who compete in your same industry are adopting it. Best believe eventually your company, your organization will adopt it at some point, if for no other reason than to stay competitive. So hopefully I've gotten your attention. Okay, so why is AI important? I mean, everything I just said, great, wonderful. But why is AI important? And why is it important to you? Or why should it be? Well, again, listening to me is great, thought leader, all that stuff. But, what are the facts, Oliver? Give me the facts. Or give me something that this is based on. Don't just tell me it's important. Tell me why it's important. Well, PricewaterhouseCoopers, international consulting firm, accounting firm. If you haven't heard of them, I don't know where you've been living. But PricewaterhouseCoopers did their own survey, and their survey came back and said that 85%, man, is that a big number? Is that a big percentage of what? That's 85% of global CEOs predict AI will significantly change the way they do business in the next 5 years. I don't know. I mean, that really got my attention when I saw that. I mean, that's not a no-name company coming up, and surveying 15 people. I mean, we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of people across the globe being interviewed and surveyed, and this is a pretty credible survey here, right? So if that didn't catch your attention, this next one is going to make you sit up in your seat. Google's CEO said, AI is one of the most important things humanity is working on. It is more profound than electricity or fire. Now, when I first heard that, I thought, okay, this is marketing hype. I mean, this is getting everyone excited. Really, I mean, how can you compare AI to electricity or fire? I mean, electricity's been around, 150 years or so? Fire's been around ever since the caveman. I mean, how can you compare AI to that? Because all the change we've experienced up until this point, all of the good things that electricity has gotten us, and fire before that, AI could match that in just a few years. Sounds hard to believe, but that could very well happen. So if you're not sitting up in your seat, now would be a good time to sit up in your seat. So additionally, these are some other reasons why AI is important. AI is nothing more than a tool. It can help you do your job better. Think about it like this: walking versus driving. You can pretty much get anywhere in this world by walking or maybe taking a boat or whatnot. But you can walk across a country. It's been done multiple times by multiple people. They walked across every major country in this world. I don't care how big it is. But the question is this: it's not whether you can do it or you can't do it. The matter is, do you want to do it? Do you really? How many people really want to walk across the US or walk across India or walk across China or walk across England or France or Germany or any other country? How many people really want to do that? I mean, yeah, maybe as a recreation, maybe one time in your life. But that's the thing I'm talking about here, right? Most of us drive or take a train or do something that helps us get there faster, more efficiently. Take a plane, maybe. Well, that's what AI is essentially is. AI is to you in your job what driving is to you in your personal life. It helps you get to where you want to get faster, more efficiently, and hopefully more accurately. So AI can curate and validate large volumes of data that can be delivered to you when you need it most. That's the key, right? How many of you have libraries or have a lot of stored stuff on a Google Drive, or you have it off in a Dropbox somewhere, and you just it's organized, or maybe it's not organized, but it's just volumes of data. And have you ever tried to find something, couldn't find it as fast as you would have liked? Imagine having that at your fingertips and able to call up a virtual assistant who could go ahead and get that for you almost instantaneously. Because if something is in electronic format, it can be found. It can be found by artificial intelligence a lot easier than you could probably find it. And you're using this on a regular basis anyway in your searches and things like that. So imagine expanding that to what you're doing in your projects. And then, ultimately, we're looking for predictive analysis, okay? And we're looking to take that analysis to help us make intelligent decisions. And the reason why that's highlighted there as far as intelligent is when you see the word intelligent, we're saying that we're merging, artificial intelligence with human intelligence. That's what's making this intelligent. And what that ultimately helps us do is reduce our blind spots. We can only be aware of so many things. We're seeing that on our cars now. How many of you have cars or have seen people with cars that have the ability to tell you when someone is on your left or right-hand side? Essentially, there's a car in your blind spot. It puts up a little light or whatever on your mirror. It puts up a dot or whatnot on your side view mirror. That's essentially what AI can help you do. Is it's letting you know, hey, this is something that you should be aware of. It may not be a problem now, but you're spending resources faster than you had planned. You are running up on possibly, overextending your schedule. I mean, giving you a heads up in real time instead of this, having to do it on a periodic basis. So what's AI's impact on project management? We talked about why it's important, and we've talked about all these things here. But let's get into how it's going to specifically impact project management. So currently, most of project managers' time is spent communicating with team members as well as other stakeholders. I've read studies, even through a PMI, the Project Management Institute, stating that upwards of 90% of a project manager's time is spent communicating. And when I say communicating, I'm talking about everything from stand-up meetings to conference calls to one-on-ones to coaching to emails to just picking up the phone and calling someone. All these things constitute you communicating with another human being. And that is where most of your time is spent on projects. So contrast that to how the future might look. Increasingly, more of your time will be spent interacting with intelligent machines, artificial intelligence. This is key because the new age the new project manager will need to be efficient at working with both human beings and machines. And some of you might say, oh, Oliver, I'm already doing that. I already have my laptop. I already have like a database I'm working in. I already have like a project management, or task management tool I'm using. Yeah, but those are somewhat not really artificial intelligence, right? Like that's more like a database, and you're pulling up information. Maybe you're updating it manually or whatnot, and but what I'm talking about is something like, imagine a world like where you're able to interact with your machines or bots, similar to how we're seeing happen in your home now, with intelligent voice. And I'm not going to take this down that path, because that's a whole nother training and the conversation. But intelligent voice is huge, meaning interacting with your smart devices, your smart speakers. So being able to verbally command or request something from your virtual assistant, and it goes out there and gets the information for you, almost like a human being would. So again, it's augmenting what you're already doing, or augmenting what your assistant does. And since a lot of us working on projects don't have coordinators or assistants, this definitely helps us and allows us to work on higher level activities. So demand will be greatest for project managers who complement AI. So not in competition, not worrying about AI necessarily eliminating your job, but for those of us who embrace it, actually helping us become better. Think about how a car helps you work better and it's more efficient. Imagine how your phone, your smart device, helps you work more efficiently. That's what I'm talking about. So AI can do the following in real time. And I want to pause here, because I'm telling you, I'm here giving you this presentation now. But when I first saw this made me sit up and really pay attention, because it really brings it home. It lets you know that this is not science fiction anymore. This is not something in a movie. This is happening right as we sit here right now, right as we are on this webinar. This is happening, or the ability to have this happen on your projects is available right now if you buy the right software and if you implement it right. Okay? So with no further ado, here's what AI can do for project management right now in real time. It can do risk scoring in real time. It can do forecasting in real time. That EVM analysis, earned value management. It can do that stuff in real time. No more periodic, no more on a set schedule. It can do it exactly in real time. Status updating, issue management, as well as change management. Again, this is happening, as we speak now. There's software out here. There are solutions out here which can do this. So hopefully that's gotten your attention. And, so this is not really meant to scare you or make you think, oh, like the world's coming to an end, because it's certainly not. What this is meant to do is to, pique your interest and put it on your radar, and so that you're not one of these people who sits back in 18 to 24 months and is blindsided because you haven't stayed on top of this. You are aware of it, you know its capabilities, and whenever your company or your organization adopts it, you're ready for it. In fact, maybe if you're really good, I would encourage you to be proactive and to reach out to your leaders and take a proactive role in this, and maybe lead up this charge. I mean, it'll be exciting, actually. Okay, so let's get a little bit more granular here. How, as a project manager, how can you specifically leverage AI? Because that's what it all comes down to, right? This is great. I mean, I'm part of an organization. I mean, I'm not the CEO. I'm not a C-level executive. I imagine most of you are project managers, Scrum masters, or in some way, shape, or form working with teams, and you're more at that level there as opposed to the executive level. So you can help drive that culture, though, but more from the bottom up. So here are some things to keep in mind. If you simply manage to project expectations, and you don't offer additional value to your organization, your role will be marginalized and eventually eliminated. That's just the cold, hard truth. If you're not adding value, if you're not doing something that can't be automated, you can best believe that your job will not be needed in the future. And, and we're seeing this happen in a number of fields. I'm seeing a lot of stuff happening in financial services, seeing a number of things happen in the healthcare. Of course, project management works across multiple fields, multiple industries, but we're going to start to see this specifically impact the project management profession. Okay. So what does this mean? This means you're going to have to get used to reinventing yourself every 2 to 3 years. Self-management has evolved into self-reinvention. If you knew me 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't recognize me almost. Yes, physically, you would recognize me. But as far as my experience, as far as my knowledge base, as far as what I focus on, it's completely changed. And I imagine, in the next 5 to 10 years, I imagine if we're still in touch, my focus will have evolved and I will be thinking on a whole nother level in 5 or 10 years, as should you. So here are 3 ways you can adjust. Number 1, you need to think entrepreneurially. And when I say think entrepreneurially, I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to think like an entrepreneur. So what does it mean to think like an entrepreneur? And again, we're saying all this stuff to really draw upon the human nature. What separates you from a smart machine? Because what a smart machine is very good at doing, is very good at looking at what's happened in the past and using that data to extrapolate, to pull out information to predict what may happen in the future. But what it typically hasn't been good at is coming up with something that there's no past data on and that you have to literally come up with out of thin air. That's what it isn't really great at. So it's not great at being a creator as much as it is at fine-tuning what's already been done and predicting what may happen in the future based on the patterns it's seen up until this point, and then looking at what's happening in real time. So what does it mean to think entrepreneurially? It means experiment to see what works and then scale it. And that's that whole agile mindset, right? MVP, minimal viable product. Not building out the full thing, just seeing how it works, experimenting. And then, as we see things work, then scale it. That's where AI can definitely help. It can help us in the scaling aspect of it. But that original idea, that experimentation, some of that is really relying on human intuition. Tie project results to organizational strategy. Somebody needs to be that go-between the executive suite and the people who are actually implementing, the teams. Now, some organizations, that's a PMO. Some organizations, it's a program manager. In some organizations, it's just a project manager or somewhere in between. What I'm saying is you are going to need to get better at not just delegating that stuff, either because you have a job title or you don't have it. Just because you don't have the job title doesn't mean you cannot take a proactive stance in this regard, because it's so new and so many organizations are going to be looking to adopt it, that those who step up and take a proactive stance stand a greater likelihood than others of not only keeping their job, but being a change agent in this new paradigm. Get good at marrying human ingenuity with physical and digital technologies. For example, to get you better insights, predictive analysis, faster responses. That's really where we're going, and what I've been hinting at all along is it's the marrying of human intelligence with artificial intelligence. You've probably heard that in the past. If you haven't, well, I'm glad I'm the first to introduce it to you. But that's what a lot of your big thought leaders are saying, what your organizations are saying, is that there will be a mirroring of some sort of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And this happens more than you would think. A lot of your quote unquote intelligent apps, and I'm not going to name any apps here, that this has been discovered, but there are a number of articles out there, if you search, that show you that a lot of your apps you have on your phone that do things automated, that they're actually being assisted by human beings. So a lot of this recognition software, scanning software that scans stuff and inputs it into your databases, a lot of that stuff is being looked at by human beings as well to augment what the artificial intelligence, cannot necessarily clearly see. So this is happening across a number of apps. So don't think it's not happening already. So think. The main thing is think. Do what you can do as a human being, and that's think. Number 2, anticipate change. Change is inevitable. We've heard about change management, although I don't know that you can manage change per se. I think that is less management, because management means control to a certain extent. I don't know that you can control change. I think that you can prepare for it and you can adapt to it as it comes. But managing it is a whole nother story, right? But don't just embrace it, proactively anticipate it. That's what I'm getting at, okay? And that's why you're on this webinar, is so that you can get insights that those who aren't on this webinar might not have. You'll be able to take a stance and be able to introduce things in your organization that others won't even really know to think about. Incorporate agile and hybrid approaches with traditional predictive ways of managing projects. It's not an either or. It's not I do this or I do that. It's you do what's in the best interest of your projects and your organization and your customers. And you use the approach that helps you create the most value. And the reason I mention this is because AI offers a different level of support in predictive approaches versus adaptive ones. And then, of course, hybrid approaches. Being able to incorporate that and knowing how best to use it is really what is going to separate you from your fellow project managers. Because going back to what I said earlier, AI is a tool. It's no different. Any tool, in order to properly use a tool, you must be well versed in techniques on using that tool. And this is what the PMI and other organizations that teach us, right? Like they teach us and show us what those tools are, and then it's incumbent upon us to learn how to best use those tools. AI is a tool. You're going to have to become well versed in it and then learn the techniques needed to best leverage that tool. But the first step in going that route is to first figure out that this is a tool I need to know about. Agile is a tool. I mean, it's a technique, but it's a way to accomplish something. So just like you went and learned about Agile and different ways of approaching it, you're going to need to learn about this and how it can best help you manage projects better. And then adapt within a consistent framework. Do you have a framework for how you manage your projects? Or are you just shooting off your hip? Methodologies are one thing. Methodologies are not frameworks, though. Methodologies are great. Methodologies get into the how. Framework is the paradigm for what you're working within. Know the difference and know how to adapt it, appropriately. And then number 3, be human. I mean, it's kind of weird to tell human beings to be human. But how many times have you gone to a restaurant, a fast food restaurant? I won't say any names. But how many times have you gone to a fast food restaurant and you ask the person on the other end something that's not on that automated menu, and they're just stuck like a deer in headlights? Like, that person's pretty much been automated, to the point of being a human robot. You don't want to get into a situation where you're no different than a human robot, because then then you don't have any real advantage over an intelligent machine. I mean, hopefully that sinks in and you realize that, but do the things that only you can do. And that's beyond just being human. That's what you ought to be focusing in, in your life as a whole. Focus on what you do best, better than even other human beings, or at least most other human beings. So hone your soft skills. That's why you're seeing a resurgence in training around soft skills. We spend so much time, and even PMI talks about this. They talk about technical skills, leadership skills, and they talk about strategic skills. When I first saw that, I thought, this is just a rehash of what's already out there. No, this is really getting you to focus on being a holistic project manager. Gone are the days of you just being a technical PM, where I can just sit there and just manage the technical aspects of it. In this new paradigm, you're going to have to be all of the above. Or again, you're going to stand a very good chance of being automated out of your job. And none of us wants that. And this is not just about project management. This is about every field. So don't think, this is too much. I'm going to leave project management and I'm going to go in something else. Where else are you going to go? Unless you're going to go into a trade. If you're going to be a white collar employee, you're going to have to face this one way or another. So you might as well stand up and face it now while you can still be proactive, instead of waiting 2-3 years or whenever this thing really takes off, and then you're left to scrambling. That's the whole point of this webinar. So hone your soft skills. And we're talking about things like communication, collaboration, negotiation, executive buy-in, and all the other ones here. Again, I'm sure if you've been in a proactive organization, I'm sure that they've had training in these areas and they've gotten people, around these ideas, like they've built them up. If you're not in an organization that values this, I suggest you bring it to their attention and bring them data, show them organizations, talk about this webinar, and then bring it to their attention, and so that they make this a priority going forward. Merge human intuition with AI. Intuition is something that's inherently human. Because intuition means, in layman terms, it means you're thinking about what's going to happen without having clear data to back it up. When I first started talking about AI and project management, there was no clear data backing it up that this was going to be a game changer in project management. But I saw that it was a game changer in other closely related fields, professions. And I said, if you can disrupt a financial advisor or their job, why can't you do that to a project manager's job? That's the question I ask myself. And I started doing some research, started reading about it, started really, looking at what does a project manager do on a day-to-day basis, and why, and the question I framed around it was, why can't this be automated, or why can't it be done by an intelligent machine? And when I started looking at the different jobs and what most of our time entails, that made me sit up in my seat, because I'm like, wow, a lot of these different roles, activities, tasks can be automated. That's why I started writing and talking about this stuff. And then, it's your job to interpret what AI gives you so you can pull out insights and communicate them to your stakeholders. Communication with stakeholders will still mostly be done by human beings. Because, there's a difference in updating status reporting and you actually sitting in a meeting and conveying what the data shows you to executives. That's still going to be inherently a human function. I'm not saying that it won't be shared at some level with artificial intelligence or a machine, but for the most part, that's going to still be in the wheelhouse of human beings. Okay. We're coming up towards the end of our presentation, but this next part here, I want to give you a chance to breathe and just really take this all in. It's a lot to cover, and I'm just skimming along the surface here. This is just to open your mind to the possibilities. But if we pulled the onion cover back and really did a deep dive in this stuff, I mean, it would be the kind of thing that would knock you out of your seat. Literally, I mean, you would be I mean, I got to take a day off work. What I'm about to share with you is a real example, because people love facts. People love facts. We're analytical people. Project managers are analytical by nature. So you need facts, figures. You need examples. Don't just tell me what you think is going to happen. Give me an example. So I'm answering the question that is in your mind right now. You're asking for an example, and here's one. Okay, this thing called a virtual Scrum Master. You know, and this is what I essentially call it. But there is an example of a very well-known company, which I'm going to share with you shortly, that has taken a lead in this area, or one of the companies that's taken the lead in this area. They have created essentially a virtual Scrum Master, and they have sold this technology, or they have implemented it in other companies. And I know what you're wondering. What's the company, Oliver? And give me some examples. Okay, all right. Ready? Here it is. It's Accenture. Again, if you know, just like PricewaterhouseCoopers, if you haven't heard of this company, then I mean, what rock have you been living under? Accenture has a product called My Wizard, and it's essentially a virtual Scrum Master. And what I want to tell you about this here is that you know, Accenture did their own study, okay? And what that study came back and told them is that roughly 30 to 40% of the tasks within agile ceremonies could be potentially automated. Think about that. Between 30 and 40% of the tasks that take place within agile ceremonies could potentially be automated. This led them to launch their virtual Scrum Master called Accenture My Wizard in 2016. So this product is 3 years old. So this is not something which just came out last week or last year. This is something that a lot of us have been following for a while. And you can Google it or put it in whatever search engine you use. But this is a real product. I mean, this is being used right now. I mean, it's used typically at larger companies. I mean, it's not something which you individually could use, but if your company or organization adopts it, then it's something which it could be used. But the reason I bring this up is not so much for you to go out there and use this exact product, but it's to show you what's capable right now. I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about what is actively being used inside of organizations as we sit here right now. So here are some of the things that this My Wizard product can do right now. It can schedule meetings. It can estimate top priority user stories. It can obtain lists of prioritized stories. And it can monitor various aspects of the process. That's just a sampling of what it can do. Ultimately, this product is not meant to replace Scrum Masters, even though it's essentially a virtual Scrum Master. If it can only do 30 to possibly 40% of the tasks in an agile ceremony, it's not going to replace project managers and Scrum Masters. It's just not going to do it, at least not, anytime in the next year or so. But what you can tell by what is currently able to do is that it's moving along a path of taking up more and more of a Scrum Master's tasks. At what point does it make sense to just turn over most of it to a virtual Scrum Master? I mean, I don't know. Is it 60%? Is it 70%? A machine does not have to be perfect. It does not have to do exactly what a human being does, but at that point, it's scalable. And as we know from assembly lines and from other technology in the past, once something becomes about 70% efficient, as far as its ability to replicate human activity, it can be scaled at a major level. So that's just something to be aware of. Again, not to frighten you, but to put you on notice that you really need to step your game up, because this stuff is happening in real time. I mean, just like Agile took over, just like smartphones took over, like a decade ago, there was a lot of displacement. A lot of companies, organizations that were not prepared got caught off guard because it was not on their radar and they weren't able to adapt fast enough. And there's examples of all kind of companies who misjudged technology. Everything from these companies who used to sell DVDs to, like your old cell phones or whatnot. These companies got caught off guard, and they got, in some cases, the worst case, they got to put out of business. You don't want to be that person who's left antiquated because you just were not on top of this stuff. So again, these are just some of the things that Accenture's My Wizard product can accomplish. I mean, there's many more, but that just gives you an idea of what it can do. So we're wrapping up here. Let's talk about some key takeaways. These are some things I just want you to have on the top of your head as you leave out of here and you go off into your jobs and everything else. Use AI to produce predictable, scalable results. The rules of business never changed. I mean, some people think, oh, well, this is new and exciting. I mean, it's just a tool. But what this tool allows you to do is to do the same thing that was done to assembly lines and it was done to other fields or whatnot. It allows you to scale. That's why companies use technology. It's not just a nice to have. They're doing it for a very strategic reason. It's to scale their business in a predictable way. Keep your skills up so you don't become obsolete. You don't want to be obsolete. You don't want to be that person who, man, I used to be that high school superstar. Have you ever spoken to somebody and they're living in the past? Like I used to be, like back in the day? That's great. I mean, you were a high school athlete. I mean, you were great. I mean, you were valedictorian. That's great. But what are you doing now? Oh, well, back in the day I was. See, don't be that person. Leverage AI to extract data so you can execute faster on ideas. We're in a product development world. That means you have to produce and release products faster. If you get the data, whoever gets that data and is able to take action with that data is going to win in the end. That's what AI helps you do a lot faster and a lot more accurately. Learn how to communicate with intelligent machines. Hopefully you know how to communicate with other human beings. If not, definitely step up your soft skills, but don't stop there. Get good at communicating with intelligent machines. And when I'm talking about intelligent machines, I'm talking about the advent of the smart devices, smart speakers. I mean, we're seeing this adopted a lot in people's personal lives, but best believe there will be a time in the not so distant future where this technology is going to then cross over into the corporate space. It's already been done. I mean, Microsoft, is taking a huge lead in doing this in the corporate enterprise space. So, so know that this is not, something off in the distant future. It's currently happening right now. And then get used to continuously reinventing yourself. I state this a lot in a lot of my trainings and the presentations, but reinvent yourself. Don't rest on your laurels. I mean, don't get your bachelor's, or get your master's and think, oh, I'm good. You have to constantly stay on top of your trainings and certifications and everything else because the time to have it is when someone ask for it. And the only way to have that is to already have it when they ask for it, because who has time to go and take a month off and get something? At a time you've gotten it, the opportunity has already passed itself. So remember, commoditization equals a robot. Creativity equals a human. And do what only a living person can do, and that's be human. Hopefully I have shared with you what it means to be human and what you can do to use that as a competitive advantage in this new AI-driven project management world. Thank you very much. You can find out more and follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Definitely feel free to copy these down, shoot me a connection request, reference this webinar, and I'll be happy to connect with you. Thank you so much. I'll turn it back over to Srini.
Wow, that was something, Oliver. Thank you so much. That was an eye-opener, certainly for me. Really gets me to think or look at AI more as an opportunity than a threat. And I really have some good takeaways from this session today. Just reflecting on some of the things that you were saying. So we are looking at moving away from a lot of these administrative type of aspects of our job as a project manager towards more of the executive level thinking and related uh, tasks where you're really harnessing the data that is at your disposal and leveraging them. So thank you so much.
Yes.
I see we have a question from a few questions, honestly. So let me just read out some of them, and let's see if we can take some of those. So I have a
Okay.
question here from Javier Silva. Do we need to have a fully implemented Scrum project management infrastructure to take advantage of AI automation for project management?
It depends. Okay, I'm going to give like the world's oldest answer here, but it depends, right? It depends on your organization because some organizations use a hybrid approach. So I think it's incumbent upon you to first figure out what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, what's the goal? And then you match your approach goal. If you are in a completely product driven environment and you're flexible on your schedule, scope, and budget, and you have autonomous teams, maybe it makes sense to have a fully agile environment. And if you want to use Scrum, Scrum as an example of that, then yeah, in that case, it probably makes sense, to have that fully implemented. But if you're not completely in that environment or not, you offer something other than just pure products, then maybe having a hybrid approach or some other approach might make sense. The reason why I say that is because then it will determine what type of AI product you would use, because some products do require you to have a fully adapted um, agile environment, while others are more flexible in that.
Thanks, Oliver. And
You're welcome.
I thank everybody for joining the session today, and I'd welcome all of you to really, think more about this and reach out to me or reach out to us at Gray Campus and let us know what you think we can do for this community and help you all really take this opportunity and grow further and become better project managers. So thank you so much for your time, everyone, and we will share a recording of this session today with all of you, and hopefully we can do more of these and help everybody here. Thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of the day or evening. Have a good one. Thank you.